I personally am a fan of the Big Ten bludgeoning itself, so I like Illinois and Michigan State going at it. Another top 10 matchup in the I-Zone. Without a doubt, Duke, North Carolina, one of the best rivalries in college basketball. And then you got UConn St. John's, a game where the Red Storm are actually favored by ESPN metrics, and at the Garden, you really never know what to expect.
I hate to give you any credit, Max, but that was pretty impressive.
Right.
That was pretty impressive. Max Gifford has the three games we are going to talk about early on today on No Pulp. Those are all very fun games.
Yeah, this is just our second straight show. Well, college baseball season's right around the corner as well. You might be asking, why are you talking about that? It's because I'm playing HO today, host only, because Josh Richardson and Dan Shalam are going head-to-head in the juicer.
I'm judging that one. And then also we'll have a little bit of kind of a game buying which players we think with just $15 make the best lineup in college basketball. That, our final words, and so much more. It's No Pulp, and it starts right now.
The best performance, I think, all year from Ohio State against Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
They just don't lose at the shoe.
She's the best player in women's college basketball in my eyes.
To stay alive, can they hook them? Touchdown!
They have the most prolific goal scorer of all time.
He will fire.
He's the guy.
I'm the guy.
Ian's the guy today.
Experience is what matters when it comes to Omaha.
Valuable. You know the number
Does everything for a team.
First time, how we feeling, Jake?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
That's Max Gifford. I'm Hudson Ridley. It's No Pulp time, the first 45-minute show of 2026. Max, it's exciting to be here with you.
It's exciting. It's fun that college basketball is in the full flesh. We're done with football finally now that the Super Bowl is done. And how many weeks until the bracket comes out? Like 5?
5 weeks until the bracket comes out, and we had a big seismic shift in what could be the potential bracket this year. Duke, UNC, the game of the year. It was billed up to be as such, and it fully delivered. UNC at the buzzer, a 71-68 win off a Seth Trimble 3. This game had it all. The largest comeback in this game's last 25 years rather. An incredible win for North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm not sure ESPN could have set up this broadcast any better because they were talking about how even and how close these teams were. How about this? The last 50 years, each team has had 5 championships. Each team has been to the Final Four 15 times, and each of them had 60 head-to-head wins until this game. North Carolina officially with the upper edge over the last half century. And you talk about that last shot by Seth Trimble, an unbelievable way to end what was a crazy game, but don't discount the effort of guys like Caleb Wilson, who almost single-handedly kept Carolina in this game. Because I'll be honest, I said at halftime, this game's over. Duke's got it. North Carolina doesn't have a chance.
He certainly did. And you know what? The funniest part is we haven't mentioned maybe the craziest part of this whole game. UNC, after the Seth Trimble 3, rushed the court. There was still time left on the clock. They had to peel everybody off the court,
the rare
back
double
into
court
the stands.
storm.
The rare double court storm. And of course, because Duke, all they do is complain about court storms, they complained about it again. What a shot from Seth Trimble. Everybody rushes the floor, and yeah, that's when they had to clear them off. The first lead of the game for UNC came on that shot with 0.4 seconds left. They hadn't beaten Duke in 700 days, which you mentioned how even everything was from all sides. It really made UNC feel like the underdog.
You know the last time UNC had a buzzer beater in general? 2017 Elite Eight, Luke May with the buzzer beater over Kentucky. And you see this is the first time North Carolina had beaten Duke at the buzzer since 1996. And you're right. How about Duke complaining once again? Death taxes and Duke deflecting the loss after a court storm. You think of a couple of years ago. Was that a couple of years ago when John Shire said, oh, my player got run over, and then Kyle Filipowski didn't miss a single game?
No.
And Bubba Cunningham had to apologize after the game. He's a much better man than me. I would not have.
It was ridiculous. You know who's not apologizing for anything? Caleb Wilson. Take a look at what he did after this win.
I'm just a man of my word. That's all I got to say. That's all I'm going to say. You know, we got the win at home. You know, it was a big win, but, you know, we always wanted the next. We play Miami. Duke is a great team, and we'll see them again.
I have a man crush, and it's Caleb Wilson, Max. I love this guy.
Wow.
Everything about this guy, I love.
You like getting the belt? You like getting the belt?
You know what? If you're going to put it that way, maybe I do from Caleb Wilson. I love his tenacity and his heart, but I love how much he loves this game, and him and Cam Boozer, two of the best freshmen in the country. This was, in my opinion, the most hyped up freshman to freshman matchup because position by position too. These two both playing the 3, sometimes the 4. For that reason, this delivered with all the fireworks imaginable. And Boozer, to his credit, had a fantastic game.
Hey, he pretty much was the only reason Duke was, really holding North Carolina off for those final minutes, especially because Duke loses their biggest player. The question that I wonder is, who is Duke's secondary option on offense right now? Because I don't think Caden Boozer gives you enough. People were calling for Malik Brown to do more on offense. No. I don't think he's your choice. So who's the secondary?
Right
I feel like that's what it has to be. But it really wasn't committee for North Carolina because Wilson had 60% of the points in the first half. And another thing that went a little under the radar, how about only 1 foul in that second half for
UNC? That was
UNC?
incredible. They were letting him play, and I love that. It also kind of made a big shift in the ACC standings as well. This conference is so tightly packed right now. Duke still on top, but North Carolina jumps Miami. You look at the top 3 right now of Duke, Clemson, and Virginia. Max, that number 4 spot is going to change. NC State got mollywopped by Louisville.
And that might be even putting it lightly. How about 118 points for the Cardinals tonight? Although, I don't think I'm really worried about Duke after that game. They've lost 2 games by a combined 3 points.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't really, I guess, disturb anyone that Duke has 2 losses. But going forward, they are playing Michigan, next week?
Yeah.
At a neutral site game. So should be interesting to see how the season breaks for the Blue Devils and how both these teams break in terms of the bracket. There was a little shakeup in the Big Ten as well. An overtime thriller in East Lansing. Number 10, Michigan State, springing the upset on number 5, Illinois, 85-82. And for the first time ever, Hudson, Keaton Wadler looked human.
He did.
And Tom Izzo, does this mean that your squad is with one of the best in the Big Ten now?
I say no, but I say yes because I know how good they are. I mean, that's a better team than we are right now. Yeah. And especially going into this game. They had won 12 in a row, and we were limping. That's a better team right now.
Well, they might have been the better team, and quite frankly, I think Illinois almost had a chance to force double overtime if Wagler hadn't been shooting so bad and didn't pass it out of the corner. I do want to talk about Wagler a little more because last week we couldn't stop talking about this guy and how good he was doing, and then all of a sudden you go 2 for 16 from the field.
Yeah. I mean, this was by far the worst game of his career, and it's not even relatively close. Still put up 16 points, though. But yeah, hitting 2 shots is not going to get it done. 12% from the field. 12% is abysmal. And yes, this is one of the best teams he's played, especially defensively. Michigan State can key in very hard and make it tough, especially in the guard spots, and I think Wagler fell victim to that. And also not having to play too many tough defenses before Michigan State, and as a result, of course he's going to struggle. Still though, I do think what Izzo said is correct. As an Illinois hater, I think Illinois is the better team. I don't think this really changes much for Illinois. Your best player played his worst game of his college career. That is probably not going to happen again, and even if it does, you've got guys around and you're still playing the number 10 team in the country and, didn't get blown to bits. So I think Illinois will be fine. To me, this is still an Illinois team that I have in the Final Four, and I don't really have any qualms about that, even after this loss.
Well, I'll be honest, one of the saddest stats about Michigan State in this game is that Keaton Wagler had 16. There's not a single player on Michigan State averaging 16 points this season, which is pretty sad. Although this seemed like the victory that Tom Izzo and his team needed to really secure themselves in the upper echelon of that Big Ten. We just talked about, can Michigan hang with the big boys? And I think after this one, it shows that they can. Yeah. Granted, they were at home. Illinois came in really hot. Michigan had something to play for. And the Big Ten, still pretty top-heavy conference.
I think it's so crazy that we pose the question, can Michigan State hang with the big boys? But then you really, because they're number 10 in the country.
And
then you think about it, and you look at the top of the Big Ten. Number 2, Michigan. Number 8, Illinois. Number 7, Nebraska. Number 10, Michigan State. Number 13, Purdue. Those are all teams that can make the Elite Eight. I wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep if any of those teams made the Elite Eight.
What do you think Michigan State's stealing is, though? Because to me, I don't think they're a Final Four contender. I think knowing Tom Izzo, he could get to the Elite Eight because it's just Tom Izzo, but I don't think they can get any further than that.
That is true. That would be the end of March, too, and that is his month. January, February,
Izzo!
April, and then, he doesn't play in April, so we'll have to see. You know who does have dreams of playing in April?
Who?
It's Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
And he took a massive, massive step to having St. John's look ready for that. They go and take down UConn in a thrilling game, 81-73. 72. I loved St. John's in this game, the hustle and intensity they brought. It just made UConn feel like they were not ready to be out there on the same court and super uncomfortable.
And St. John's had all the confidence in the world coming to this game as well, which I think really helped them because it was at the Garden. UConn was coming in, maybe one of the hottest teams in college basketball, similar to Illinois, but you just found a way. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most was his St. John's press. My goodness, did Rick Pitino press all night? And then you see it right there. They just were not afraid to slash on this UConn defense, which has seemed like the opposite of what a lot of teams have done. They have tried to just pretty much destroy the Huskies from the three ball. And St. John's hadn't had that marquee victory all season, something similar to what we've already talked about with Michigan State, something that can even be said about North Carolina as well. And how about St. John's getting that victory? And Rick Pitino has talked about, even though he just got that marquee victory, he still is very confident in his squad.
Exactly, and I don't blame Rick Pitino. This is the level of confidence he has in his group.
Like I've said so many times, this is the best group of people, character-wise, that I've coached in my 52 years. There's not one problem, not one guy that gets out of line, not one guy that doesn't give me everything.
That night it was Zubiayo for 21 points, 10 rebounds.
Best player on the floor by far.
I thought he was fantastic. I also loved how they shut down Solo Ball. Only 8 points for Solo Ball. And that's the #1 guy to key in on. They did a fantastic job of that. Rick Pitino is just so smart. And like you heard, 52 years coaching. I mean, it's earned him 903 wins at this point. That ties Roy Williams for 3rd all-time in Division I history. And he's almost at 70 wins in his time in St. John's, 69 right now. Pretty nice stretch for him. 2-time NCAA tournament champion as well. We won't mention 2013 getting that gold, but sure. 1996 as well. Rick Pitino is a guy that I've loved. No matter the struggles that he's had, I like that he wears a suit. I like that he's old school. I'm a new school guy. I like old school Rick Pitino.
Not many coaches can find a way to beat a team that shoots over 55% from the field and really just dominate this team because you find a way to turn that team over. St. John's had 20 points off turnovers against the Huskies. Again, they were shooting 56% better than the Johnnies were in this contest. And still, a relentless press, good defense, finding a way to beat their defense by turning them over.
Yeah.
That's how you win ball games.
It's
That's how
all
Rick
about
Pitino
the
wins
turnover.
ball games.
Exactly. It's all about the turnovers. And at this point, too, the Big East is starting to get muddled. It feels like every conference is starting to flip on its head. Of course, UConn and St. John's at the top. Hey, Villanova making a sneaky run there as well. And then Creighton and Seton Hall, Shaheen Holloway's squad starting to slip a little bit. I love Seton Hall, but in conference this year, not so great.
I mean, how many four-win teams am I counting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah.
Starting with Xavier all the way down to Marquette. I mean, the Big East has just been bad this year,
They
which
have.
has not been the tradition over the last couple of years with how dominant that the conference has been at times.
Well, when you have two top-heavy teams in UConn and St. John's that combined to go 23-2, and that one
they're
loss
running
for
the gambit.
UConn was to St. John's, yeah, that'll happen. Well, Max, we've got a lot to get into on the other side. 2 heavy hitters in the juicer. Dan Shalam, Josh Richardson. You're not going to want to miss it. We've got guaranteed fireworks after this.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear. you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
It's juicer time. How could you not love these smiling faces, Josh Richardson, Dan Shalam? Look at these cutie pies. We've got a firework matchup, like I just said before. Yep, fellas, shake hands. I've said I'm going to be a very, very fair judge in this. Do we understand the rules?
I hope so.
Sir, yes,
I
sir.
hope so.
All right.
I want fair judging.
Perfect. So we're going to start with Josh here. Josh, right now, your most fun team to watch. The first question for 1 point.
Yeah, I have to go. This is pretty chalk, but I'm going to go with Michigan, right? Because Michigan, #2 team in the land, one of the best teams in all of college basketball, and one of the most well-rounded teams in all of college basketball, because the Wolverines have 5 players averaging right around double figures. That 5th guy, Elliot Cadeau, 9.9. I'm going to round up for the sake of my argument, but 5 guys that can do everything on the court. They've blown out some really great teams. They beat Gonzaga by 40. They beat Auburn by 30. They went into Michigan State, won by 12, beat a really good Nebraska squad as well. This is a team that is one of the best teams in all of college basketball. They are so much fun to watch because what's better than winning? Absolutely nothing, and they do so much of that.
My team also does a lot of winning. That's North Carolina. Hudson, I'll name you a couple of fun things. I know you saw North Carolina's physicality firsthand. That was pretty fun. Another thing that's also fun, Caleb Wilson. How about 20 points a game for him? He has been absolutely on fire. Hasn't had a game where he hasn't found double figures so far this season. You see that stat there, nearly 4 players into double digits. And another fun thing about this team is they've taken down Kentucky, Kansas, and Duke for the first time in a season in 40 years' time. So if you want a team that's on the up and up right now, is going to give you a lot of fun basketball to watch, North Carolina's your squad. If you want a team that's going to blow squads out by 20 every game they play, go and watch Michigan.
Or they could lose to Stanford and Cal. There's that too.
You know what I will say? If the question was who was the better team, that is a very easy Michigan. But keen listeners will also have known that I did just call Caleb Wilson my man crush maybe 10 minutes ago. So you will also note that I do like UNC for that reason. The more fun team, Dan Shalam, I will concede, wins .1 here. Alrighty, Josh, we're going to start with you again, though. What was the most surprising result for 2 points this week?
Do we even need to do this? Guys, it was Portland over Gonzaga. Are we serious? Portland went in, got the first top 10 win in program history. You know how incredible that is? Gonzaga was a 22.5 point favorite and lost outright by 7. Not only that, Portland led for 94% of the game. It's not like it was close back and forth and Portland just snuck away with a win. This was dominance from start to finish. Gonzaga started the win probability at the opening tip at 98.8%. This is not even remotely close. It's Portland over Gonzaga, and you can't tell me anything else.
You mentioned a team that led for 94% of the game. How about a team that led for 0% of the game until the final buzzer? Give me the Tar Heels once again here for question 2. This is a team that trailed by 13 at the half to the number 9 scoring defense in the entire country. And what do? They go on a 9-0 run in the final 2.5 minutes of the game, hold Duke to 37.5% shooting from the field in the second half, shoot 60% themselves from the field, and go on and win this ball game against a team that had beat them 3 times in a row. And I understand Gonzaga and Portland, but guess what? That game is really not going to matter. Gonzaga is still going to have the 1 or the 2 seed in the tournament. Portland's not making it. Duke and North Carolina, this game matters resume-wise, and it's a huge upset for North Carolina. To go in there and knock off Duke down by 13 at the half, are you kidding me? Come on.
Look. I will say the first point was awarded to Dan because the thing was fun. The second point has to be awarded to Josh because the word was surprising. Portland over Gonzaga is an absolute shock. So whoever wins this next 3-point question wins this round of the juicer. Dan, we start with you, the most inconsistent star in college basketball.
It's got to be Kingston Flemings here from Houston, and I'll give you a couple of reasons as to why. Now, I know he won that BYU game, and I know you guys talked about it a little bit earlier, but if you go back 2 games to that Cincinnati one, he had just 7 points and he shot a mere 2 for 9. And then you go back, 3 more games time, and this is a guy that put up 10 points in consecutive contests while shooting 3 for 10 and 5 for 12 from the field. Let's also not forget that Kingston Fleming put up 5 points against Jacksonville State earlier this season and a singular point against Notre Dame, all on 19 minutes or more on the floor. So it's not like he didn't really play those games either. And Josh, may I just say, the guy you're about to mention has double figures in every single game this season.
How do you already know my answer? That doesn't sound a whole. That doesn't sound very fair.
Do you think we've rigged this show
That
here,
doesn't
Josh?
sound very fair. LeBaron Philon Jr. from Alabama is the most inconsistent star in college basketball, and I'll tell you why. I completely agree. Everything you said about Kingston Flemings, it all makes sense. I understand it. But Hudson, you'll know this too. Getting 20 points on 10 shots and 20 points on 20 shots are 2 very, very different things. And so while you know what, and you know what, Dan? You know what, Dan? Here's the thing. You know how much of an offensive rhythm that completely messes with when you can't do that consistently? Yes, the end result may be the same, and yes, that's possible. But the offensive flow of the game gets so messed up when that happens. So the efficiency of Philon just not being there for so much of this season, he shot as high as 73%. He shot as low as 30%. But here's the thing. Overall, Alabama needs this guy to do so much more than Kingston Flemings, because you know what? Maybe when Flemings is having a bad game, you can defer some of that action. Maybe he doesn't need to do everything as much and as well as anyone else on Houston. Philon, he has to do it. He has to do everything he needs to. And if he isn't consistent, then they're not going to win.
One quick thing here. Offensively, he's still putting up double figures every game, and this is which player is the most inconsistent, not which offense is the most inconsistent. Based on that player's play.
30%, 70%.
Here's what I will say.
Volume, efficiency.
These are 2 players that I don't like. So you guys kind of picked the right players. What I will say is, Philon, I don't like his turnover problem. I have seen Kingston Flemings be bad with my own eyes, and let me tell you, that guy is so
9
mid.
points against
We're going to eye test in the Big 2026.
Mid.
So mid.
The eye test in the Big 2026 because I trust my eyes. Josh, you put up a heck of a fight. You're right there. Dan.
Let's go.
A narrow win for Dan in the juicer. I said I was going to be fair. Some say I might have picked Josh, but I was completely fair. That was the juicer. Congratulations to Dan. All right, on the other side, Max Gifford and I, we're back. We're picking lineups. We have $15. Players worth $5, $4, $3, $2, $1. Where do we put them 1 through 5? You'll find out right after this.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us on No Pulp. We're back. Hudson, Ridley, and Max Gifford. Dan Shalam can finally stop complaining that he doesn't have a juicer win. That's mostly because he wasn't going against me. Got lucky that I was playing host only today. We've got a fun game now on No Pulp. You see, we've got a lot of players, and we've got some dollar signs as well. Hudson, we're going to be building our best starting lineup.
Love it.
And you have $15 to spend. Lots and lots of talent to choose from, but we'll jump right into things. Let's start with our point guards on the far side of this. Who do you like the most? Or I guess who are you spending your money on?
To me, this is incredible value at the 2 spot. I have to take Jacoby Gillespie for this. He is a guy who can create his own shot. He's not a bad distributor, and he gets hate for that. But his deep range, I mean, he can hit from absolutely anywhere. What I don't like about Gillespie sometimes are the turnover issues occasionally, and I don't like that from my one. But what I will say is I also like the offensive firepower and of the shooter that he is. Jacoby Gillespie, to me, that with the experience. I mean, all of these 4 top point guards are great. Xavier Lee, get out of here. But the 4 top ones are great. You kind of can't miss. That is why I just love the value of Jacoby Gillespie at number 2 here.
And I think that's fair. I think there is a lot of really good players at this point guard position, but I do think that Gillespie, with a lot of these guys on these lists, does have a lot of that firepower that maybe some of these other guys are lacking. I do agree, though, does have some turnover.
So
problems.
who are you going with in this point guard spot here?
Again, it's tough because longtime fans of the program will remember I picked Bennett Sturtz to actually beat Dan Shalam in the juicer not too long ago. But I like the $4 pick in Jeremy Fears. And look, there are guys that you don't want on your team unless they are on your team. And that is Jeremy Fears. He may be a villain, but my gosh, he embraces that villain arc. Some have called him the next Grayson Allen, but here's the question I pose.
That's true.
Would you rather have the guy that kicks people in the balls, or would you rather get kicked in the balls?
That's fair.
And Jeremy Fears, you know, he might kick people in between the legs. He might trip a player here and there. But guess what? He's the best passer in the country by far. He's got dimes for days. He's got the most assists and the most assists per game in the country. I just think the fears and the fierceness he brings, he's got that Tom Izzo toughness that he really does preach. Does kind of remind you of Draymond Green in a way. I think having that guy sort of initiate a lot of your offense is really what I like. I mean, the fact that his stat line against Illinois was 15 and 15, I'll take that any day.
That was pretty incredible. What I will say, too, I like his passing ability. I just don't know if it's $4 worth, in my opinion.
He's been inconsistent, I'll give you that.
That is why I'm going to pass, because sometimes he doesn't show up against big teams. Max, at your 2 guard, who are you picking?
Okay, so this is absolutely, I think, the biggest value pick on the board, in my opinion. I'm going to take the guy who could go top 4 in the NBA draft for $4, and Keaton Wagler. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I don't know how this guy is $4 just because he has one bad game against Michigan State when he still has 16 points. I still feel like that's undermining what he brings to the court, because the reality is when I've got Fears passing, he's the one that's going to be shooting, because for his entire college career so far, he's been consistent shooting. The fact that this guy
minus
yes.
one game that we talked about earlier.
Minus one game that we talked about earlier. But you know you're going to have those in the NBA. You're going to have those in college. That's just the reality of basketball. I do think that, similar to how I talked about how Fears is sort of that Draymond Green comp, if you will, because of his physicality, Keaton Wagler has literally been compared to Steph Curry because he's got the logo range. He's got the vision for the game. And the fact that he is that sharpshooter, and the fact that he probably should have shot that second shot to force Illinois into double overtime, he just didn't trust himself enough. I'd like to see him trust his stuff a little more. The reason I don't want Darren Peterson at $5 is because he's a little injured too much. I think he's already embracing his Joel Embiid character.
This is true. A little Kansas correlation there as well for the two. I was going to say, when you're like, I don't know how Wagler is $4. Well, it's because Darren Peterson, probably one of the best prospects we've seen in, I don't know, since Wembanyama, which I guess isn't that long, is at the $5 spot. I'm also going to go Wagler just because I don't want to spend the money on Peterson, but for all the reasons you listed, I think the range is unlimited. I'm a Bulls fan. I would love if the Bulls could keep him mid-state with Keaton Wagler. I just like, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of versatility, and the fact that I've gone back-to-back shooters may not be great, but I do still trust in the ability of Jacoby Gillespie to kind of be a little bit of that one that I need to set up Wagler on these shots. So far, I've got Jacoby Gillespie and Keaton Wagler. You've got Wagler and Fears. So you have already spent back-to-back $4 picks.
I spent over half my bankroll.
I still have $9 left on this here, Max.
Okay, so again, you know, we're spending in different ways. That's just fine. We're both using our money differently. Let's see. Since we used it the same on Wagler, I have a feeling it might be similar for the shooting forward position. AJ DeBonsa is a really good pick, but who do you like for this spot?
No, my small forward has to be Caleb Wilson. This is, okay, now 3 times here on this show, we just can't get enough of Caleb Wilson. Man crush, man crush, man crush. There we go. That's 3 times. That'll end up on a TikTok probably. I love how Caleb Wilson plays defense, and this is why I want him, because he is such an aggressive defender. His reach is supernatural, but his effort. Kyan Anthony, after Syracuse played against North Carolina, said You know, I just love the way that he plays within his team. Maybe we can start doing that. That was probably a little bit of a bad omen because then he got benched the next game. But still, what he said about Caleb Wilson spoke volumes. He plays within his team, and I think this is a guy that has plenty of superstar potential, but on a team full of superstars, somehow at my 4 spot, I've got my role player just because of the fact that Caleb Wilson can play defense.
And the fact that we have him locked in as a 3 spot,
yeah,
when he primarily plays the 4.
Yeah, this is true. That gives great size at the small forward spot. Max, are you going
Which
with
is
the
why
same
I
deal?
also like Caleb Wilson in my 3 spot. And, get away from what he does on offense. I think you just touched on that a lot. But I really like what Wilson brings on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the fact that this guy has a 6'10 frame and is so athletic is something that I'm a big fan of. So you have the one side. And the fact that he's got that two-way ability is very impressive. And I think Wilson, you mentioned just that offensive versatility. You mentioned the good eye for the game. You mentioned how he's sometimes that pull-up shooter. I think that sometimes he tends to drift out of position, which is fine because he can guard different positions and because I'd almost rather have him showing those offensive possessions if he's gambling defensively.
Yeah, I can trust him to guard the 2 through the 5. So right now, Max, you have just $3 left for your power forward and center. So you can block out all of these value picks. Personally, I'm a wise spender, so I would never let that happen to me. What do you have in your power forward spot?
See, this is when we start going cheap, but we're going big. We're going Tester Ritter at the 4 spot. I watched this guy play in person last weekend, similar to you with Caleb Wilson, so it might be a little bit of recency bias. But I really like what this guy brings. Do I get a discount at all because this guy is technically, European? So in the euros, that's like 84 cents.
No,
in
I think
United
isn't
States.
the euro more valuable than the dollar? Oh no, that's the pound.
It is absolutely
That's the
not
pound.
more expensive.
My
I think
bad.
it's like 85 cents in US dollars. But Tester Ritter, 6'9 frame, a big guy, but my oh my, is he athletic. I think that because of that athleticism that he brings at that 4 spot, this guy's a bully in the lane. He was bruising Syracuse defenders left and right this previous Saturday. He's been doing that all season. Virginia is one of the best offensive teams and best offensive rebounding teams in the country. Tester Ritter is that leading scorer and leading rebounder. So that's why I think I get pretty good value from him for $1.
I think that's solid value, but I had to, Max, at this spot, go with Koa Pete at the 4. A physical bruiser. This is an NBA body with massive size and aggression. We talk about all these incredible freshmen. People forget, like the first 2 weeks of the season, all anybody could talk about was how good Koa Pete is on Arizona, and he is blazing past every single freshman. So we cannot forget how good he truly is. I love him at my 3 spot. Personally, just because of physicality. If I've got, rather at my 4, because if I have Caleb Wilson at my 3 and Koa Pete at my 4, that is a really, really strong team. And look at that too. 3 freshmen in a row, Max. Pretty solid stuff.
And the fact that we ignored Cameron Boozer and Yaxel Lendenborg and AJ Devonsa. All of those 3 are also freshmen, and Darren Peterson.
Well, Lendenborg, not a freshman.
Right, not a freshman.
But what I will say too, I think we're going good value across the board right now. I've got $2 left. Max, you've also got $2 left. It seems like we may be going with the same spot.
Spend the rest of the bankroll.
Henry Vesser, give him to me. I like the way this guy plays as a floor spacing big. I'm thinking
he's fired
through
up
this
right
team.
now in this
I
photo,
am thinking through this team, by the way. This is not just what money I have left. A floor spacing big. He is physical. He's just really, I don't know. He's very slow. He's very slow. I will say that. But his shot is pure. He's got solid enough range, but from the mid-range, I really like what he does. His footwork excels in those spots too. In terms of value plays, these centers are good. Badunga I like, Mara I like, but they're just way too expensive. I'd put Vesser in the 3 spot. Honestly, based on whose game and what style you like better, you could argue Vesser against Badunga just depending on what you want. Do you want that floor spacing big that can hit 3s and kick outside the arc, or do you want the more physical guy down low in Badunga? You could swap those two, 4 and 2 pretty easily. So that's why I feel very comfortable in taking Vesser in the $2 range here.
And Ejiofor put on a pretty good performance for St. John's on Friday. He's a guy that, I probably might have spent it on if I had the money. I have $2, so I also like Vesar at my 5. And I think something that stood out to me is you talked about how his shot is pure. This guy is 7 foot, and he's shooting 50% from 3-point range. I mean, how many times have we seen a player of that height shooting it that well? You're also bringing that international flair to your team as well. This guy's Estonian, I believe, so I think that should also count toward my euro dollar currency, if you will. So I technically should have actually less money because I guess the currencies don't line up. But I do like how well Vesar moves in sort of a flow-based offense. I think he moves naturally. I don't think he gets caught flat-footed a ton, which is hard to do of a guy of his size when he's 7 foot and 230 pounds. So I think having him at my 5 with the $2 I have remaining is a pretty smart pick. Not too much difference between our starting lineups. We just have two main differences, and that being you with Gillespie and Pete, and me with DeRitter and Fierce.
Okay, so let me break down my lineup here, and here are the reasons why I chose what I did, because this was not just all value-based. Gillespie and Wagner, having them as shooters, I do like that, and I think Gillespie is enough of a one where the distribution can happen. And then really physical on defense. What wins championships? Defense. If you can have Kelvin Sampson maybe coaching this team to play really fast physical defense, having Koa Pete and Caleb Wilson is really going to lock down that front court. And then almost a distributing big. And Vesar in the back, I like what he can do and the shots that he can take. Stretches the floor but plays physically. Love my team.
See, that's way more of a ball knower way to put it. You gotta look at the eye test sometimes. You just said using 2026, we got a passer, we got a scorer, we got someone who can get offensive rebounds, we got a guy who can shoot the 3, who's 7 foot. And then we got Caleb Wilson, Hudson's man crush, as we said, I think, for the 5th time today.
Yeah,
we're not just done yet on No Pulp, so stick with us. We've still got more to come. We've got our big 3 coming up. Maybe Hudson will do a little better job this week. We have also got our plays of the week, and we've got our final words on the other side.
Welcome to my house. Lately, not my happy place. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The parents were not themselves. My little brothers were morphing into small creatures. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. And there's a lot of that going around right now. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It might not get you out of the house, but it could help you find a little more breathing room.
Closing up shop on No Pulp, that's Max Gifford. I'm Hudson Ridley. Some have called him the Big 3 expert, Max Gifford, because last week his Big 3 made all 3 spots in the first section of this show with the games of the week that he chose. So Max, we're going to switch it up a little bit. Maybe you're a little bit worse at this. We're going to go underrated teams that are not in the top 25. Who is being undervalued right now? For my 3 selections, Tennessee number 1, Utah State number 2, and NC State number 3. Now look, this may not look very good right now. I do understand. Tennessee did just lose to Kentucky, but hey, Kentucky spent $20 million on their team. I still think that Jacoby Gillespie and Nate Ament, the combination of them, come March Madness, I'm completely fine with a Rick Barnes coach team going far. Utah State, that's a vibes pick. I love their home environment and arena. Their students show up. They distribute the ball very well. There's not like a very heavy offense slanted towards one side or the other. They always make it to March Madness, no matter who their coach is, and then somebody else steals their coach away and does well with him for a good reason. Speaking of stealing coaches away, NC State stole away Will Wade, who I think is a fantastic coach. He was at McNeese State last year. The only problem with NC State being an underrated team, not in the top 25, is the fact that they allowed 118 points
to a ranked team.
To Louisville. To a ranked team who is number 24, so barely ranked in Louisville. Those are my big 3, Max. What are your opinions here?
Well, I don't love that Rick Barnes has been saying, I think my guys are betting on the games with some of the ones that they're losing.
Maybe they should bet on themselves to win.
Little inconsistent for me. I can guarantee I'm not going to be good at this big 3, and for one glaring reason, that's because I got NC State on the end at my number 1 pick. Oh boy, oh boy. I do think Will Wade is a winner, though. The Wolfpack had come in winners of 6 straight. Darian Williams just was like 3 for 13 in the second half last time I checked. He needs to be more consistent. I think they've got so many tools around him. The fact that Terrence Arsenault, a guy that played all 40 games at Houston, doesn't get that much playing time on this good NC State team, I think means that they have a lot to prove come March, and I think Will Wade will be ready come March. I do have some belief in the Villanova Wildcats. That's why I have them at number 2. Big East headlines have been dominated by St. John's and UConn for good reason. I think Kevin Willard's a good coach. I think the fact that only 2 of Villanova's losses have come to those buzzsaws of the Big East do prove to me that they can hang. It's not like they got blown out in those games. And then similarly with Villanova, I do think that because they get to play St. John's and UConn, they have a chance to prove themselves once again. Then I have somewhere to the Utah State Aggies. I think the Aggies do always make it back to March, and I think while they don't have a ton of opportunities to improve their resume, they will be in March and they could potentially make a run.
I fully agree with you, Max. We've got really exciting plays of the week as well, too, to get to. There's probably no bigger impact play of the week, though, than Seth Trimble. Everything that I love about college basketball was on display. Seth Trimble, the corner, the 3, the win. Fantastic shot from Seth Trimble. This is a guy did not play much as a freshman, stepped up later as a sophomore, ended up playing as a starter as a junior. Now he's a star as a senior. He owns a Ben & Jerry's. He hits the biggest shot of his life in the biggest game of the season, in the biggest crowd UNC has had all year, the biggest moment of his life, and he delivered. What a play this week.
I hope everyone's getting free ice cream
after
getting that. I think it's cool that he owns a Ben & Jerry's.
Chocolate fudge brownie, great flavor. That's my number 1.
I'm a Tonight Dough fan at Ben & Jerry's.
You would be a Jimmy Fallon guy.
Sure.
That's not a good thing or a bad thing.
Whatever that means. All right, my play of the week, we go to the Midwest, Southeast Missouri State, SEMO as we call it out there in the Midwest. Luke Almodovar, maybe with the dunk of the year. Let's look at it once again. Oh my goodness, he just absolutely put Devin Curtis in a body bag. We're talking about a guy that is 6'3", primarily a shooter, and just hopped over 6'11" Devin Curtis, who last year was at a Division I program in Cal, and Luke Almodovar with that incredible finish, a furious one at that.
Well, for years, the discussion around North Dakota State football rested on one thing. Why don't you just move to the FBS? The answer was pretty simple. The Bison were dominating the FCS, winning 10 of the last 15 national championships while going 198-22. So why leave? Well, NDSU hasn't quite been the Titan they once were. Don't get me wrong, they still have 2 national championships in the past 6 years, but in that stretch, they've also had 14 losses. Compare that to the prior decade, where they only had 8 games that they lost, with multiple undefeated seasons. If you ask your average college football fan who's the best team in the FCS, I have no doubt they'll say North Dakota State. But I don't think that's the reality anymore. That makes this the perfect time to move to the FBS. The college football world still respects you, but you may not win a championship every year like you did in the 2010s. Now the expectations change. The money levels up, and so does the competition. Good on you, NDSU. Go become the next great Mountain West powerhouse while no one's watching.
All right, I want to start before I get to my final word with a disclaimer. I believe violence is never the answer, and whether you like it or not, people under 21 end up in bars all the time. And with that said, maybe it's time to give Gavin McKenna a break. This week, the Penn State forward and projected top NHL draft pick was arrested on 4 counts after an altercation outside a state college bar. The most serious included an aggravated assault charge. That was until Saturday, when the district attorney said, quote, "The evidence does not support that McKenna intended to cause serious bodily injury or acted with reckless indifference to human life." In other words, context matters. Social media was ready to end his career, when the reality is there isn't a scout or NHL GM who is going to hold this against him if the facts hold true. Now, put yourself in McKenna's shoes. You turned 18 less than 6 weeks ago. You're with teammates in a private room, and a student older than you is harassing your mother. Your mother! That same student was removed from the pub while teammates held McKenna back, but it didn't end there. He waited outside and continued the confrontation when McKenna left. Guess what? Actions have consequences. And in this case, as you saw right there, the kid got a broken jaw for a fight that he started. We can't expect these stars to be superhuman on the ice. then destroy them when they act human off of it. McKenna still has a court hearing in March, and I'm sure this has been a massive headache for him. But Gav gave the same reaction any rational human being would have. So please, let the kid be.
If anything, Max, I think this ups his draft stock. The NHL,
right?
The only league where you can fight. Now you're knocking guys out left and right. Left and right, I
Sounds
guess.
like he got good 2 punches to the mouth on him.
Well, breaking a jaw in 2 punches when you're 18 years old? I like this kid already. Get him on the Blackhawks.
Right, you might have to. I hope the Blues get him. That's kind of why I talked about him. I don't think his draft stock has gone down. I think the St. Louis Blues would be happy to have him. Blackhawks are doing pretty well this year.
I fully agree. That's a topic for another show. For now, that's No Pulp. That's Max Gifford. I'm Hudson Ridley. To our entire producer team, we thank them very much. We hope you have a fantastic night.